how they are related, how they are connected. So in the lecture 9 and 10, what I have done is, in the 9 we are going back. We talked a little bit about the regulation system, how it works, because that was our focus. But I also noticed today how that there are many PhD students and master students who wants to pursue research and also explore new areas of research opportunities here and abroad. I saw that. So I'm really impressed. So that people are thinking in the direction. So today what I'm going to do is, we'll do in the lecture number 9, we'll cover the different layers of regulations related to environment. Right? So what we did is, just want to summarize. In the beginning, we started the framework. We saw the regulations little bit. We will, as we understand, connected all the dots. When we are coming to the end, we are circling back and we are diving little deep into the system to understand more, so that you should have a complete understanding. See, in the initial stage, we started with the regulations, then we started with the different layers, how it is applied to the field. Then we started understanding who are the different stakeholders, how we want to bring them together. It is not the just, now you have an understanding. What I think is, the regulation and industry, just they are not to the opposite organization. So there is an exchange. It is not like that. Now you have understood who are the stakeholders in the environmental field, in industry management, industrial waste management, and protecting water quality, and developing the sustainable technologies, and protecting the safe environment. Now you see how many different people are involved, how they are connected. So we started with the regulations. We saw that there is a framework where all this can come under the umbrella. But then what we started doing, we started understanding what are the different type of treatment, biological treatment, chemical treatment. Then we study the process, how the wastewater is treated at different trains. Then we see what are the byproducts, what are the regulations related to them. You understand? So it is not just the influent, effluent, and the regulation. So you can understand how that scheme takes place. Then we did further, we were trying to understand what are the issues with the water quality, what are the issues with the regulation. Right? Then we started understanding more about what are the regulations and how to apply for known pollutants. If the pollutant is not known, I gave you some example where there is no system developed in the countries, right? Like emerging contaminants. I will tell you there is an emerging contaminant in the tutorial, how it was. Then we are able to deal with that. And before that, the another contaminant, started coming up. So we don't have much information on that, but I just wanted to tell you that there is an contaminant which will cause damage to the environment, and how we are going to develop regulations, methodologies, measurements, everything. So you have seen different scenarios, right? So how they work together in order to make it successful. That is what we see. Then later we were trying to understand how data are generated from the wastewater effluent and what it means data. When it comes, data is there, how you will analyze, how you will predict. You cannot predict the quality or anything just on the bare eyes. So you need any data and how you interpret. I've also mentioned the interpretation of this data for different groups. You have seen the repeated slides there, but the focus was different. One focus was at the point of operation. One particular data they will view, operators will view in the different direction. You also seen the industry side will view that data differently. They will not see the consequence. As a public, as an person with the concern of the environment, he will see in a different action. He will see what is happening in that. You see, you also seen the different locations, sources where you discharge. They have their own consequences. So what happens if you are discharging to the river and stream, flowing rivers? I have seen you give an authorization and after sometimes it is blank there. So these are the situations, but your authorization is there. That is why you have to be careful, because how, as a regulator, how you see your authorization at the receiving end, how they see. You are also seeing the conversation, right? And how the public doesn't know the data. They see the different results, right? If you say that data shows, oh, they don't know. If you say it is 500, now it is 300. What is 300? For them is nothing. They will see the visual, what is happening. So that is why you observe in this system there are people of different background, different group, all the stakeholders think in a different direction. So that is why don't undermine any component who are connected with the environment, with the safety of the environment, safety of the water quality. They are all equally important. They want to give a different message which you cannot give, right? So that is why it is important. If a person, a public is asking a question, he has a different perspective. You cannot say that you don't know the data we are reducing, because these are perspective is different, right? And also the economics plays a very important role in this, because that is one of the drive, that is one of the drive. I won't say it is not the complete one. Economics is required in order to progress. You have seen the technologies. I wanted to also explore some of the technologies which we have implemented there and resulted how they are working, right? And you also seen some of the things how they are working. They are also working, but you can see the way of working, how it is implemented. You will see it is working there. Here you see it is working. We want to expand, but means there is a lack of understanding, right? That's why you don't think. I was later I now, yesterday and today's discussion, I could easily understand there are a lot of PhD students, faculties, and master students, right? They want to do some research. Then that is why it is important for them to understand what is going on other side, what is going here. If your research or thinking on environmental problem is not finding in a solution to one problem, that is different. That is why you should understand very well that if you are doing some more research, you are doing the things which people doesn't know, right? That is what you have to do. So that's the important concept in that. If you understand that very thoroughly in the beginning, then you can move forward. Otherwise, don't think that you are finding one solution, then this is will form a big portion of my work, and that is not it. So that is why you can also have a support for that publishing papers. You get a good feedback very often. It is not somebody is telling that this is not there, this is not the way work. They are giving you a good way. Take it to positive and see where it is going. You have always, correct the things and form. It is in the every field also. You have seen in the environment regulations. If you do, you cannot just put the limits like that. You do research. You wait for 2 years and see what is the range it is coming. Then you think how much limit you have to put. How that number came. So what I'm going to do is, based on this, I'm going to explore little, make you to understand how the data system works, as in many of researcher are here. So how you can look that in a different perspective for your work. So those are very important. You can your work should not be specific to particular small problem and things, that is not good. So you are developing something which will be useful for the larger system. So that is our focus. So let's get back to this combined effort. That is why I want to just refresh you. We have already talked about this. These are the three different components. We are just circling back and see where are the some issues, whether which have been left, which we have to dig little deeper and understand that, right? So if you see the combined effect, so I am coming to that. Earlier you see different type of regulations were applied, and what is the focus here? Focus is see how the combined effort, that is what we want to do. We have seen who are the different stakeholders, what are their perspective in bringing a solution, but you have seen them individually. Now you can see that you cannot solve only one group, one component of this can solve the issue, right? So that is what I wanted to make you understand how how they cross each other, right? When you are talking about the discharge to the river, you have never considered that the fishery is also a very important part of it. Uh, Here also, I think it is gaining more momentum, but there people are very much afraid. Your entire effort in doing, you do something here, come to the end, and it will just go zero. So that is why you should know when you are doing anything related that, because you are putting the millions of dollars in this, right? In crores of rupees here, right? So when you are doing that, you want to do it for 4 5 years without understanding who are the stakeholders. I am telling you this their scenario. If you do not know who are the stakeholders, you do everything, design and implementation, everything goes. When you go to the discharge, if it is not working, there is objection. Everything what happens? Who is responsible for that? You did all the entire work. You go there, people will come with hesitation. You have seen here in many of the projects. You did a lot of work, people do sanction, half work, their work is already done. Millions of million crores of rupees have been spent here, and then everything is stopped. These are the things. Oh, earlier, so there is a hesitation. There may be a reason for it, right? There may be a reason for it. But why that has not been taken into consideration in the beginning of it, right? That is why today the combined effort. Earlier you saw the different regulatory framework, but here combined effort. Who are the other stakeholders for it? You have a regulation, you have the industry and public NGOs and revenue authorities and also First Nation people, native people there. They have a different culture, different way of doing the things. You cannot just ignore it. It has happened many cases. People just ignore them because that time they are becoming more smarter and smarter now. They also have a legal battle, they have a lawyers, they know. Earlier it was group of people, but it is not like. But it is not that way there. It is we have to go first there. That is why in many of the projects which I have worked with them first. You have to get a clearance with them. You have to make them understand. You have to take them together along with the entire project because they are the people who are living there, right? That is also the component there, very important. So that is why you have to make them understand what you are doing. It is important to involve the public in the beginning only. You cannot just overtake and do the things. So that is what I want to say is they are also the important part of this. They are stakeholders. So that is why it is important to identify to do anything. First, you have to involve them, make them understand what is going on. Public is also there. Yeah, public is there, and first nation you can say the native people who are there. They are a different culture, different. That you have to respect all. If we have seen there also, you have to make sure that there are any separate places exist in that area where you are doing. If it is so, you cannot do it. In their with their consent, you need their clearance, then you can move on. See how smart it is. If you want to do any activities, you cannot do your activity during certain bird season. I just forgotten. Some things were delayed because when there's certain period where that the birds stay in their nest. That time you cannot start your activity. So those are some of the things you should which are related to that, right? So you don't respect anyone, don't respect other people may not be that important because sometimes large people are not important in certain areas. So who will bother them? But they bother because they are lived with them. So those are some of the things where that is why I'm putting a combined effort. So our perspective is little different. The national program components you have seen in state level, municipal, non-domestic, and also the toxic and non-conventional activity. When you are designing what we do, we just take the conventional one. Right? I have an example. I have an example where you design the entire treatment plan considering certain parameters. Right? That's why the data is important for you. Why I'm telling this? Because when it is designed by an engineer or a people consultant, the lot of research people are involved in that. Right? Who can tell you what is the toxicity level? Chemistry group will be there. You will analyze what is the toxicity. You are designing in a system in a place where you are in future receiving wastewater from different industries. Those industries are already existing, major contributor. I have given you one example what happened there. So they designed a receiving treatment plant. They forget, I don't say forget, they did not consider the major contributor. component in that. If you design a treatment plant considering the organic compound, domestic wastewater, and you already that time you are already knowing there is an industry which is contributing a high TDS. So you already designed without considering. So what happens? They are nearly one third of the contributors. In a small town, if you are doing, they are they are they are a major contributor. If you neglect them, what happens? They will just go away. You have designed a system spending millions of dollars and a major component who were the funding authority, they said we are not, it is not serving our purpose. Why? Just a lack of communication. You guys did not consider our components, our discharge is different. Because we are one third. We were paying one third of your. If we have to treat lot of things, if we are treating little pre-treatment and then discharge, it is fine. Win-win situation. They will also should get. If we are contributing one third of the cost, one third of the flow is ours. Then if you are not considering, you have to do a major portion to remove that and then discharge. You will not discharge at all. We will discharge. We will design our own system because we are spending already to do that. So what happens? Your total, what will happen to that wastewater treatment? See how big mistake it is. If you neglect any, because that is a toxic. If you know earlier what are the major toxicity coming from the one third contributor, you could have made a provision here itself. Then they will remain with you. Otherwise, why they should remain? When you have to pay in both the way, you have to pre-treatment means you have to give a little treatment and then discharge. So that is useful because you will pay money there, you will also spend money here, which is bad. Because economics is important also for small industries or any major industry. Major industry they have a major. I have another example also. Yesterday you saw. Earlier they were discharging, then they built their own. And that is also a public infrastructure. What you are not, it is ultimately lost to the public who have contributed in designing. If a city is building a big treatment plant, what is the funding? Where that money comes from? It comes from the people. Here we say wastewater treatment plant as if it is not belongs to you. Why they have used that word? It is yours. Right? So that is important in designing because perspective is different here. You are going deep to understand who are the stakeholder, what are the possible consequences. Because when you design anything treatment plant, you are designing it for 30 years, not today. It should work for 30 years too, and now also, now and 30, right? Because you are spending millions of dollars, correct? So that is the kind of understanding you should see the toxicity of present from the industry. When you say that lot of industries already existing, you want to do, you have to consider each person. Who are the major contributors? You have to take care of that. If they go away from that system, your whole system will collapse. So that is why it is not easy like that. We should have this system, but there is a big understanding is there. So how long it is going to do? That is why you do an agreement. That is correct, but you can do an agreement. What happens? There are many reasons they say that the things what we are expected is not happening. It is possible. That way they can go. That is why it is a combined, word combined effort is very important. They should remain when you invest, build something. They should be your partners for many years to come. If they suddenly withdraw that whole other system, if what about 75% people who have also invested? The whole thing will suffer. That is why combined effort is important. So control authority, approval authority is how we have talked about that. When we design any treatment plan, I'm coming a little bit of design treatment plan. We are not going deep how you design, but you understand that your wastewater treatment plant is coming in place. But what factors you need in a data? If if you are the person who wants to design, what happens? They ask you to provide the information. If you are not providing that information, based on that they will design sitting in the office, right? But who will provide the information? So that is why, since lot of stakeholders are involved in the whole system, many of these projects end up in the legal court, go to the legal jurisdiction. Once it goes there, you have already spent most of the money here, and you are just stuck. The public money is just sitting there, and you are not solving. You have seen example. I need not give any examples for that. You have seen here, but I am telling you about how we approach there. That is why planning. When you are doing a planning here for designing any cities, big infrastructures, you will have to spend more money, more time, understand thoroughly each and every component, what is going to happen for 30 years, because you are spending a lot of money. So that is understanding. What happens today, even though we say that municipal sewage treatment plant and industry, if you want to remove, that decision has to be made beginning only, right? You are designing the system and later you are incorporating, it is difficult. That is why the pre-treatment program started. You treat and discharge. But what happens later, industry started becoming bigger and bigger, smarter and smarter. What happened? They started withdrawing. That is why the cost benefit ratio also plays an important role. Today it is okay. Today it's fine. For 3-4 years, 5 years, it may be fine. But later, but there are situations like that. Is why I will dig more detail, understand more detail about the money factor in the next lecture. Only related to the economics, the cost benefit ratio you do in the beginning. But whether that cost benefit ratio will remain for 30 years, because your design period is 30 years. See, do you have any alternative? If this is going out, so what alternatives you have? Because things run on the cost benefit ratio, any project. You can't run the things loss, right? Otherwise, what happens? They have to declare bankruptcy and things will just go wrong, everything is wrong. So that is why uh, determine the pollutant of concern. So what it needs. Now we see suddenly emerging contaminant. Yesterday that's why I wanted to give a little flash on that. So you should understand, when you are making in a big, decisions, determination, you should have an understanding this kind of. That's why they say that just do the things. Research is important. You should connect that to the research. You can ask you questions. Lot of PhD research people are there. Why? When everything goes above their head, people call them. So those are the things, pollutant of concern in today's world. You see, yesterday there was a good question, how that pollutant came out, how that pollutant created. Chemistry people can answer very well. Their job is to create a new product, right? Create only. That's why organic compounds were not existing before. If you go back, today you say the people won't live without organic compounds. So I worked in organic compounds for many years. You see how difficult, how concentration is so small. Uh, Major population doesn't understand the value because it is not wrong. That's why the stakeholders are different. If you say BOD is 500, if you say that lead concentration is 1, that is nothing for that. Once you know the health effects and we don't have, once it start entering the food chain and by that affecting the human, then you will start understanding that effect. Like that, many organic compound are there. Benzene, I gave you example of benzene. Have you ever talked? Because I wanted to give you little flash. What are the pollutant of concern? But that is the big concern in the today's world. These kind of pollutant of concern. You have always seen the sewage treatment. You, if you are thinking in that direction only, if you do not have an idea about what are the pollutant of concern, what are the pollutants which can cause damage to the whole system, and because you are not measured at all, no measurement, no pollution. So that is what the concept takes place there. So that is why when you are doing any big billions dollar of projects, you always see a different stakeholders will start entering into. Smarter and smarter people will come there. They will tell you, oh, this is the problem. This may occur later. Today it is not there because there is always a possibility. How many people know about this except this chemistry, environmental background people who are active in learning and teaching? So they know about these components, right? But how many percentage you know yourself, but other people doesn't know. People who are in that group doesn't know. So that is why I'm telling that you should be able to understand the stakeholders in doing this planning because tomorrow you guys will be there, you know, in this kind of a project. You have always a right to ask a question. Your question asking should not be limited to a certain group, certain places, certain time. But there you should think in a different direction. You should first job is to think in terms of the consequences. It is not that everything is going same and you are happy. Everybody is happy. No question, no. But the issues which are concerned because you know you are the experts there. You understand better. You have to do that at right time. Once it is built, you can't do anything. That's why when you are designing and planning, you take more time and understand who are the stakeholder, probable reason, probable possibilities after 5 years, 10 years, because your system should run for that. If you are designing the things for 30 years, if it is just running for 10 years, how would that will work? You have designed a system, I mean dam for 50 years, there is no water after 10 years. You have seen that, those examples, right? You have designed it for 50 years, 60 years, then in 10, 20 years it's empty. What is a major failure? You have not never predicted what is going to happen. But how you can rectify this? If you have an understanding that the streams which are entering in this area, they may go off, then you should have another alternatives. That is why we study there. We do the feasibility study, right? This is the similar. You see that if this goes up, then you have another way you bring the water from that area and make it successful. You do that. If they consider that this may happen down the road, then you will understand. So that is what I'm trying to tell you. This combined effect, understanding who are the stakeholders. Doing Simple job is fine, but you have some responsibility when you are part of that group. You should see which are the consequences coming up in the system. That is what I'm see. That is today's issue. We have talked about the regulations. We talked about the industry discharging and designing, working well. Everything is fine. Everything is fine, but these pollutant of concern still there. It will be a surprise if you say that how this pollutant came. It is not a new one, it is already there, right? It is already there, and you are not taken that into consideration. Why I am telling is, I have seen recent examples in the rivers. They were talking about one thing, showing a glass and showing that this is reduced, here it is. So, how we will interpret that? You have seen, no? Here, I see sometimes news here. So, some people do that. So, here it is earlier it was this and earlier this. So, if they tell you how you will interpret that. But that is true, you understand. But things will just go like that. So, that is why if responsibly, if you want to do something which is just to work, which has to work for the purpose, what for it is done, you have to be more attentive in doing that. So that is why in the field of environmental today, the pollutant of concern is a very important factor. That is what I want to remind you. We never just think that removing BOD, COD, what we are doing, we are going a little bit further. The people who don't think that you have to think, because you know already, but it has to be brought to certain things. But you never ask that question. In addition to this, what are your analysis shows what are the pollutant of concern? Did you ask? Did you ask yourself? Right? That is important. You do when you design, when you discharge, you do not only just the conventional general parameter analysis, you do priority pollutants where you scan for a list of contaminants. Have you ever asked them what are other pollutants? Who will see? You guys have to see because you know, right? You know about that. Never ask. So those are the today's challenges, right? Because as people become more smarter, right, in creating the products, new products. When we create a new product, we have to think how to dispose it of. Because when we are walking in the unknown territory, we always think how to come back. You should remember the route, right? That is how it is. So that is what I was trying to tell you. You think when there is a wastewater, just don't think with the BOD, CODs and DSS and other stuff which a normal person can. But you guys are experts. You have worked for many years, you have education, you have background, but at the same time, the contribution is also important. So, collecting and analyzing the data, that is important. When you take that prior definition, when you, that's why I was trying to tell you, we'll dig a little bit deeper about the data. So, when you authorize, you find an analysis, you will see what just people will display, will be happy, you feel that they are very transparent. They may not be known. There are two things. One is people may be doing unknowingly, you can correct. If they are doing knowingly, that is different, right? That is what you will have. If it is, if there it happens every time, even there. I see whether you know. My next question always this. When you find that, my next question is whether you were knowing this or unknowingly. When unknowingly things have happened, I have correct. Because nobody wants to go that much. I gave you one example of B-text analysis. I found that for after doing when I went there, I found this quickly, which was going on for many years. So I fixed that immediately. No, this is not good. They did. They had to do. That is different. But here also it should be a set. That's what I want to say. So collecting, analyzing data, then when you do very good managing in a treatment plant, always you are not just stopping at that point, you are going ahead. You are going ahead and finding out the scan and see what are other pollutants are coming. Okay? Then what you will do? Then you will create an system. We will increase the frequency of measurement. You will add the measurements for that, and you will go on increasing the frequency, and you will see the trend. Whether when this trend has started, whether it started earlier you can't do anything. It is already. So if it is happening, you are finding a solution. That is what I am telling. When you found there is a problem, then you will start thinking and you should stop fixing. At least you should you if you are that much expert in that area, you should do that. This is happening and this is there and you have to find. That is the true suggestion you can. What is the result is different, but if you have that expertise, you will have to do it. Okay, so then calculating maximum allowed head works and all that is there. You can it is a big load coming that you can understand because it is visibly see. If the organic load is increasing, you will see because you are measuring. Today is the concentration is this much and flow is this. You will combine. You will find out what is the kg per day. You will find out kg per day is this much and kg per day is will be per day BOD and here today and after 1 month this it is increasing because you have a still room, right? If your system is designed for 5 MGD MLD, then you will understand whether you are at 2.2, 2.5, 2.6, you will go on increasing because your system is designed. That's why you are not worried. Slowly, the biological process will start adjusting to that environment. If the flow is increasing, organic compound is increasing. But if there is a concern about the pollutant of concern, anything, that whole system is. So that is why it is not only planning, understanding the stakeholders, you should also know the pollutant of concern, possible pollutants in the future coming up. So that is one important thing. Designating and implementing local limits. That is important. For example, if the Taj Mahal is there in Delhi, if lot of pollution is there, so your limits should be different. How much limit you want to put for a airport? Monument you have to protect, no? I will not take any monument. History is there, billions of years, but it has a value, right? It generate. It is not just a monument; it is also a livelihood. Many people depend, and you have an pride, prestige. You should also think about the different limits for that, other than more stringent than the state and federal. So That is important, designating, implementing the local limits, because that is why people who are working in this area, they should have a more privilege to make sure that that area is protected. Only that much can be done. That is very important, right? So performing local limits review re-evaluation. That is one we are digging a little deeper. Once you did limits, whether they are valid for after 5 years, what is the scenario which was there before 5 years? There is a large development in the 5 years. What I do. I do a evaluation. I ask them to re-evaluate your system. Let me see how that. And it is not that once through process, once you're done, everything is fine and forever it will go until somebody comes with big flags in the hand. No, there is a system. That is why you are building in a system. You are not just doing the things and go forever. Whether the people who have built the system, they are there or not, but the system should run, right? No one will work forever. So that is why you need protocols, you need manuals, you need how you should progress, right? What is your plan for 5 years, 10 years? How you will train the people? Before a person leaves, he has to train other people. You should give a sufficient time for the training. But training is one of the very important factor here. People spend, other countries spend a lot of money on training. If you don't know how you can say that, how you can do your job properly. If you do not have that understanding, training, how to do, even for the people who are working on the field, because it starts from there. If they do not know how to take sample, why you have to take that sample there? If you are not training them properly, your error starts from there. What happens? That error will continue for your full design and the whole thing. We will also say that we will also see there whether that is the quality data. We ask 2 to 3 parties to do that, to validate. It is not that one person is, somebody is showing in the glass and that is the result and everybody say. Only just based on the color. You analyze, because your error starts from the bottom. That is why bottom people, who are the people who are on the field, in the field of environment, they are great people. They do great job. They are protecting, in fact, giving the right things. That's why train them properly. See that you are doing the things properly, your equipments are well calibrated. These are all simple things that you have to do first, then start doing. I have seen people have designed a model just on few data, right? What is the representative sample? How we will see? We see small sample, big samples. To make a decision, you should have a small sample, at least 6, big samples, 64. And if you much more, it is you go high number, thousands of samples, like that. I was showing a graph there, the number of results, percentage. They take a minimum 1,000 plants, collect similar plants. Don't take 1 or 2 and make this. Criteria may be different. You cannot compare. And how we will validate? They will give it to other person, validate. So they will dig deeper. 2, 3 parties. So you spend more time there. It is not only just on the top. So that is why the importance data starts. Okay? So performing the local limit evaluation and the local limit address concern of collection system value. You have seen many examples. The collection system should be right. Whatever they discharge, it should come to the treatment plant. You have seen the consequences if the collection system or the discharging waste is not properly analyzed. There are many pollutants in which can cause and destroy. There is a temperature, non-polar oil, pollutants that results the presence of toxic gases, vapor. We have seen these things. So that is why we have to understand the system of the sewer line. We have seen about the treatment side design, but the network is also a part of the system. That is why it is important to protect. How we will protect? We will also study not only just the discharge is whether it is 5 or below, it is acidic, it will cost. The materials used for the construction of sewer lines. Earlier, maybe 30, 40 years, I don't know, still they are at sea. We used to have a different pipe system for water supply, right? Then they removed all of them, and then the GI pipes, galvanized iron pipe came. Today we have that and non PVC also, which are good, right? Less contaminant. They are much better. But earlier, along with the distribution system, lead used to started entering the drinking water because pipe material people have not thought. People understood when people understand started suffering with the lead contamination in their body. Right? After many decades, people suffered. Then they made a rule. You should not use these kind of particular pipes. Right? That is why it is not only the data generated by the discharge analysis, but it also the material used for constructing the components of the sewer system. So those are the important things, right? So if we are talking about the network is very important. That defines the service area of that city, town, right? So when we do that, that is a major part of your collection system. That is also has a certain amount of design period, correct? You have seen the overflows in the pipe because it is very visible. If there is an overflow, it is taken it very seriously because that is why the major contamination and contagious disease spread if there is a spill, if there is an contamination of sewage in the drinking water, right? That you have heard. Many, what is the table? So, so you have seen the pipes which carrying the sewer system or industrial wastewater. You have seen there is an explosion. You have also seen about the if it consists of vapors and methane and hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide is easily identified because it smells bad, right? Easy. That is what is seen. What is not seen is also. When it is distributed in the system, entire, I mean the network, you have seen many manholes. That is how you connect in the gravity flow, right? Different. So when there is a manhole is constructed, they are more dangerous than anything, right? Because there is always a hydrogen sulfide, methane gases, and if it's called in a confined state, confined space, correct? Confined space, we tell anybody to just go and do the things. No, because why? People who are sending them, they are not bothered about them. Number one. Number two, they don't know what it is. If you are exposed in a confined space for 10-15 minutes with the high hydrogen sulfide, it may cause a severe. Some of people who are working in the wastewater treatment plant, they may be knowing. But they may be knowing, they know. That's all. End there. Period. We said many people just go and get down. But here it is. Why I am giving you this example is how we do, how the things are done there correctly, and how you think. Because it is a common practice. People, anybody says this, yes, they go and clean it. But there, what there? If a person is stopping, they open it, wait, they test the concentration, then they go down. When one person goes down, other person is standing there until work is there, because that is the watch. Oh. I wanted to give you that example. What happened? One person already gone there. It is become a big news. There, what happens is when such incident happens, they learn and they make a regulation. They understand. So, what is the outcome is important. One person went there, and other thought that he is not coming. Another person, third person, they all died. So, how many of you have seen that people just going down and clean? Because you don't value this, right? So, that is why I am telling you it is not the just one thing. When you dig deep, it is just don't look at just the treatment plant and BOD, COD, everything is fine. You see the component, number of issues, that is one of the component here you want to learn. That I want to show you what are the issues. At least being an expert, you should know, right? And how they are dealt. There is a rule. You are all the manholes and the narrow pipes, narrow spaces are defined as a confined space. People who want to do, they have a limitation. They should have a training. They should have a proper PPE, protective equipment. They should have a training, and there is always a watch. One person has to watch what is happening. They should be tested before going. That's the rule. That is why what happens? Cost will go on increasing. That cost should be borne by people who are just watching, right? So that is how the system is built. So you have to have the economic ratio. Done the things at a cheaper rate. That is not so. You have seen there people spend a lot of money, but we prepared this in just go away. I have seen just one Bollywood film is the cost. We spend this much money there, and here they are paying this much. Very cheap. Why? People are cheap. People lives is cheap. Yeah, who will pay for the people who are watching and who are doing the testing and then getting down? If you are sending one person there and just paying some money, that is why the cost changes. Right? Here it is million, there it is hundreds, there it is thousand. Why? Don't be proud of that. Whether People who are working, are we paying them correctly and are we giving at least a protective equipment? Cost will go down. To bring a person and do anything which is dangerous and just so that is what I was trying to tell you, the issues related to that. Processes. Protect the operation, ensure that discharges comply state level, that is we have seen, demonstrated specific limit, prohibition of discharges. That is important. If you know the pollutant of concern, you will stop them. So that is one. So we are talking more about that pollutant of concern, approved pre-treatment program, right? Develop and revise, revision, evaluation. If you do that, you will understand more about that, the consequences. So do not have approved treatment program, must develop a specific, it should be specific to the place. That is the only, you can't make a law for every town. You, that means you make a law, you will also see, you will put a clause, and those things becomes just a guideline. So things change as the size, requirement, criteria, environment, your purpose changes, those are changes. Don't just stick to that. If it is, you see the criteria under what circumstances they are. That is why you do, when you do the model, you will see what is the range, at what range it works your model. You cannot apply one model everywhere. If it is in that range, then only you will apply that one. If any one of the parameter changes, that base results of that model cannot be taken, because that is not applicable at all. That is why when they say model, you should remember first is the criteria. It should come to mind. It is not that model applied. What is the range? That if they give, that is why as the experts or people of the expert in that area, you should know what is the criteria for that model. You hear this model is applied. So that is what I want to. What is the time I have given? Because one second. Give me the schedule. So I may forget. I may take their break times. Take break. No, this lecture is. So we were trying to understand what are the other issues related to the treatment, industrial treatment or domestic wastewater treatment. What are the other components? That was the purpose. We are going little deeper when we already have an understanding of different parameters, different measurements. We went one step further to understand the pollutant of concern, and we also understood what are the consequences in the long term, right? When we apply any any design, if it is a treatment plant is coming up, we started understanding not just the regulation as a stakeholders, industry as another stakeholders. We started understanding what are the different stakeholders which will are more important to be successful of the project, right? So that is how it is important in preventing the overflow, extended life of the wastewater infrastructure, ensure worker safety. Worker safety, I gave you an example. It is not just the people who should worry about working in the treatment plant. There are other people also who do. There are other people who go and take the samples in the river. What are they are there, but I am giving you one example, so you can understand what are the other consequences in other stakeholders, other important people working in that overall successful of the work. Right? We have to take a river. If you want to take a sampling in the rivers, then many people know what are the important steps you have to follow. Right? We will take a break. 5 minutes. Thank you. Can you hear me? So we are talking about the combined effort by the stakeholders. I wanted to make you understand this is not the just three layers of regulation in the industry. I wanted to emphasize on what are the various other stakeholders are equally important in order to make it successful. So that was the intent. So this lecture I will take for another half an hour. Will leave 5 minutes. So we have some times here. So then there will be lecture number 10, where I will have to emphasize a little bit more about the data and cost benefit ratio. So cost benefit ratio was the intent of that the lecture. We wanted to do that, but I will also emphasize a bit more on the data, as most of the participants are research background. They are doing research and they also want to pursue higher studies, and people are there in the teaching that will help, so that that can be transferred later to their students, that to the other people, and if they are teachers they can do it to their students. So what we will do is, I'll continue with this. We'll give you 10 minutes for talking, because this is we are going a little bit deeper in the combined effect on the some of the areas which you never thought in the building a wastewater treatment plant and in taking care of the industrial discharges. Okay, so we'll do that up to 1 o'clock. We'll finish 5-10 minutes before. I will give you 10 minutes for questions. If you have any questions, you can ask here. So after that, there is a lunch break, and then 1 hour, one last tutorial. I'm going to do that on the land application we did. We want to do, our main focus of that tutorial is to remove the priority pollutant. We want to focus not only on the BOD, we want to focus on PCB. So that's what, in addition to BOD. So we have applied certain new technology to remove the high BOD in the winery wastewater in the earlier tutorial. I have a bit video also on that, so just a 4-5 minutes, so that you will get little grasp on how that works on the field. So that is already working. So that is in the progress. So it has been implemented, working well, both studies. So I have executed them, and we have done a great data analysis, and also it will end up in 1 or other day you will see the results in the research papers also. That is in future. So that is the today's schedule. After that, we have a lot of other programs where you can interact yourself. People have come with a bit different background, as they have told me. People have come with a different background. You need some time to interact between you. And if you have any questions, you can also interact with me. So I will be available for some time. Then we will have next program, your hobbies. Right? Okay, so we talked about this, the protecting the drinking water supplies, preventing sewer flows, extending life and of the wastewater infrastructure, ensuring the worker safety. Always remember, your work is important, but equally your safety is important. When you are doing, you have to think about your safety, because safety is the prime importance in your work. Because you may be working on the field, you may be going to the river and taking samples in future. That is what we do. I did many places like that and analyze, and I advise my people to always make sure that your safety is covered. Before that, you should make sure that you have a protective equipment. When you become a authorities, make sure that your subordinates, people who are working on the field, they have a proper protective equipment. Just don't be show blind eyes towards them. So that is very important. That's number. Researchers also, they have to take care. Where dealing with the many chemicals analysis, you should first take care of them. Make sure, don't be in a hurry doing the things, because why it is called accident happens once. So that is important when you are dealing with a lot of acids, because I have worked on done research for many years. So sometimes we be in a hurry to doing that stuff, but never do that. So that is why this focus on worker safety. I will go where are the we have already covered. I will go up where there is we need an extra stretch for the combined effort. I will do will. Right. These are the regulations. When you do that, you can also find out how that rules is implemented, because you need any regulations to take to the next level. Also, it provides a lot of information to the people who are working. That is important. If we do not have a guidance document for you, how you will do? You may be expert, but still there is a procedure to do. How you go to the industry? When you go to the industry, there is always a MSTS. Make sure that it is displayed there. Protective equipment, it is displayed there. It is not necessary to be in your computer, right? Make sure that it is physically displayed and visible. You should know the emergency first. That is why when we go there to any places, any visits, first step is we visited here. But when I do there, first is the safety protocol. They say in emergency, this is the way you have to do. Safety person comes in, tells you this is our map, this is the place. If this happens, you have to go there. A new person who is visiting, he may be authority, but at that point is important. That is what I expect, in future it will develop here also. So those things are important uh, in the system. Then the general discharge prohibition, you already seen, we talked more about the pollutant of concern and other the general pollutants. So significant, we already said why they are called significant industrial means who are discharging the very high volume of wastewater. Categorical and the high dischargers, we also know, we have talked about categorical industry a lot, where all the contaminants generate, more contaminants are generated. You have to be much careful for these industries. They are kind of an activity where the possibility of having a pollutant of concern, right? That is why if categorical industries, if they are doing anything, they do off-site disposal, because volume is less. It is not possible for one industry to do a treatment for that. But there is another important factor to that. They have to collect to certain level and then discharge. Make sure that that is done properly. That is your focus. It should be. So we are going one step ahead, and if I wanted you to ask that question, when you remove a metal, how you store when it is filled. There was a tank you saw the tank there, no? So it that all the metals were collected at the bottom. But wanted you to ask a question, what is your daily production of metals? Because you are an expert. You are not just a participant and a public who can go see here. Your first question should be, what is the volume you produce? Where you store this? Which is the company taking it? Whether that company is certified? Because a group of people may come. We have another system. I just want to give a quick action if anybody is not following, because there are many offsite disposers we have come across. We have gone to the highest level of the taking action on them. There are people who collect the stuff and go and somewhere they dump it, because that is important. That is why you should have a right of entry to see where they are discharging, who is taking. It is not necessary that he is collecting everywhere and dumping somewhere. That is why it is important. Those questions you should ask once it is filled, how many months it takes, how many weeks it takes, where you store there. When there is an hazardous waste, how you store within your campus. There are people all there. There are regulations how to store, how many days you want to store, how to store, what are the guidelines. So that your focus should be on that categorical industry. And the number of pollutants generated from the different industry. Asbestos manufacturing, asbestos is almost gone, right? But there is a separate, when we say that, there is a rule there. If it is a asbestos, that specific people will come and make sure that it is free. They have a protective equipments, and then they cannot just take anything and just put anyway, because all the time it is in contagious. It may cause a severe problem in breathing. So that is why you have to focus on those things rather than just looking at the bigger picture. Very common things the ordinary person can easily understand, right? That is the focus. Then fertilizer manufacturing and all, you should know that if people who are involved with the soil background, you see, when you applying the wastewater to the crops, you will make sure that how much is the crop update, how much is going down to the groundwater, is there any contamination, that all kind of stuff you should be remembering and asking them, and see is there any procedure or they are following, is there any guidelines on that. Those things are important. You should always look at that level. See, grain mills and metal finishers, I have talked a lot about the metals, how they are taken care. That is a separate protocol. You make sure that they are disposed properly. So I wanted to bring to the notice that if they are not able to, they are disposing properly, then there is a criminal justice there. Environmental justice is that is a new system, has been started many years, not far away, but we used to do earlier with an enforcement. But there is a separate section which is having the people with the legal background, and they will find where they are disposing, which is the company responsible for the investigation, millions of dollar fine. So all the damage is collected from it. So that kind of a system is existing, and here also in future I think it will be there. There are list of industries. When you say that you are dealing with a particular industry, try to understand what you should focus, right? So that we have seen, there are different areas where we are delegated and all. I have given list. So where we we authorize them and they run the program on behalf of us, then we oversee. So this is some of the category typical separation responsibility of non-delegated. We are authorized and we deal directly. That is the difference. So industrial survey, we talked about this in detail, how to identify which industry is existing in the town, which what you have to do, what they are manufacturing, all it should be under the radar. This we have already covered how the survey is done, what are the different industries. So essential elements of legal authority. So you should have a essential element, right of entry, if they are confidential requirement. There are some technologies when they are submitting an engineering report, you have to protect. How you will protect? You should have that. You should not allow anyone to, just disclose their technology. And also at the same time, that is why it is important which is confidential, which is not confidential. I have mentioned about this little in the beginning, on the way in the very beginning. But if the public has the right to go and see any document, they can put, they can ask. There is a right for every citizen to ask for any document to see what you are doing, what they are submitted, what is going. It's completely open, right? So these are things we have on the way. We have already talked about the control mechanisms, discharges, right? We have also seen the general prohibition, specific categorical best management practice, and ability to locate loading, PSS flow. This is another important when a group of industries are discharging it to the receiving treatment plant. Load allocation is important. You allow this much load only you can discharge. If it is higher load is coming, that is not your responsibility. What they can do, they can have a storage tank there, then they can inform. So that is one of the things you will have to see when in case of industry common effluent plant. You should be, your first question is what is your loading, and what are the loadings of the tributary industry discharging it to the common treatment plant. Your focus should be that. You should not just be a general. They are doing a commentator plant, they are working alone. You should go little one step deeper and understand that. Inspection monitoring, we talked more about that in the beginning in the legal structure, and also if that doesn't happen, what tools you have to do that when you are approaching the legal court or any legal action. You should have a perfect document. So we have seen about other penalties. We also talked more about the confidentiality requirement. There is a requirement how you have to protect, how many years you have to protect, what portion of the document you have to protect, how you will protect. There is a separate thing because always they are worried modern technologies are developed there. It cannot be like that. Someone will just do and steal like that. That's why it's copyright. And it is different from different organization, different type of documents here. So that we have talked about that little further. You should be able to see how it can be maintained and when it can be disposed of, right? They cannot have that confidently in your office forever. No, there is a period. After that, it is just gone. So, benefits of fog control, we have talked about that. If the oil and grease is not removed properly, how it will cause. Because I train the people on a fog control for different cities. Yeah, how we do lectures, I also do them. So American Public Works Department, once a year I do that for them to understand what is the importance, what they should do, what they found. We have a great interaction, and we modified many systems which were error for many years, and then we have corrected. So that is how your focus should be when you are doing it. That reduces the maintenance cost. You should find out the root cause for the poor quality, not just the very, you want to fix it temporarily, right? So that should be your focus. And emerging contaminant, we have talked about this. I told you yesterday also, I took a separate slide. I just wanted to cover a little bit, but we talked about this. So this we have already seen. There were a good question. I wanted to give a little flash to you that there is an existing emerging technology. When you do that, you can also find out more information. There are documents available. Some people are stepping forward, irrespective of the regulations. Some people are who are working for the ecology, I mean, to maintain the environment. So they are stepping forward to go ahead and fix their problems. So that we talked about that, and identify the the sources of that. We have talked about this. Right. Very good. Questions. So what we did, what we understand in this combined effect, when we started, I will give you 10 minutes time, another 5 minutes, I will just summarize why this is important. We talked in the very beginning about 3 layers, right? So as we move forward, you understood it is not just the regulation and industry. You started understanding who are the other stakeholders, how important they are, right? You are not just treating in a general parameter, you are knowing about the general parameters. At the same time, you are also giving importance for a pollutant of concern. There are a number of pollutant of concern. How they are formed, that is a different. That is the difference, right? So that also you are digging a little bit more to understand these are not only the parameters. You are experts, you should know a little further. So if you know about this, if anybody is talking about that, you will say there is much more to that. You don't no need to be just happy by looking, it is 300 here, it is 220. So that's what the very intent of that. We talked about the pollutant of concern, and also we talked about its importance in designing the whole system, because you designed a system thinking that, and with the half research of understanding the characteristic of wastewater, then suddenly you notice after few years your results are not coming up, and it is because of the pollutant which is already existing, that is not taken into consideration. So that should be your understanding. So that we saw, then we go little deeper to understand. In the beginning you understood about the sewer system consequences and also the overflow, but later you understood there are different components like the manholes, PPP, and also the people working how to sample, where to sample, when to sample, how to decide the sampling points. We do that for a city. When they do evaluation, we say that they do the evaluation where to sample, submit the report, and then we evaluate. Why you want to do it here? Have you seen the characteristic whether it has changed within 5 years? So all those things you should do it right time, and they are doing it. So that I wanted you to have a little focus on those important components which play important role. Then we also see there are not only regulations, there may be a local public, there may be a native, there may be different cultural groups, there may be sites which are sacred and it has to be taken care. So we went little further and make sure that those all the values are protected in the system. Otherwise, it will come in. It will come up when you are in the middle of the project. Everything will be happening. That is why it is one of your responsibility in doing it, finding out who are the different stakeholders, what are their rules here and later. So that all we have seen. So you understood not only just a regulation, there are other components. There is a equally big responsibility of the participants, because that is the treatment plant built by the people. People's milk. That you always remember that. It is not working. If you sit quiet, it will never work. So that is what I am trying to tell, that participation, awareness, education is also important. Not only just the technology and the other things that is there, that is more important, but other factors which are in. So that is all about this lecture. I think we have stretched certain points which we thought that is limited to only regulation and industry to the stakeholders, right? So that is a very important part in combined effort. That is why it is a combined effort. Earlier, the regulatory framework. Now, that regulatory framework led to a combined effort. See, when we started from the day first to the last day, we say it is combined. That is what I wanted to have that feeling. Then we will take care of our lecture. 10 minutes for your break. Oh, are we giving the little break? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. If you have any question, 5 minutes and then 5 minutes.
Any question?
No question? If you don't, oh, yeah. If no question, I wanted to give a 10 minutes break.
Sir, actually, I have one question related to the how much significant for the industries to have a
Yeah.
techno-economic assessment for their wastewater treatment feasibility and profitability of with the emerging technologies, and which type of the integration you have talked about, also that the metal quality of the pipelines and everything that should be with a good grade and everything.
Yeah.
So is it required or mandatory for submitting some TA report before starting of that type of the projects, or?
Exactly. That is actually a mandatory, because
Okay.
when you do feasibility study means what is your project is feasible,
Yes, sir.
is it? Otherwise not feasible. That is why when you submit, you don't submit that this is the only way to do.
Yes, sir.
They say that you will do suggest three different ways, four different ways, then you see why you are choosing this. When you say that I have chosen this out of these methodologies or these technologies, this the way cost benefit ratio also will, but that is our secondary parameter.
Yes, sir.
First is the purpose, quality.
Purpose.
So you will say that, you will see, you will select one and then do. So in the feasibility, you will have to consider all the factors, right? If you are considering only the treatment plant, that is not the only way, right? So
Yes,
that
sir.
is why cost benefit ratio always does. It matters. If you put certain compound, it may be less, certain material it is less shorter period. All that, how we build a house the similar way, right?
So, sir, what's the lifespan for such type of the evaluation? Well, 10 years, 20 years, or
Usually, that's a good question. Usually 30 years we see.
30 years?
Usually we do 30 years.
Okay.
What happens? That is another factor to that also. How much you spend, in how many years you want to recover.
Yes, sir.
Right? In
Yes, sir.
certain area, if you are bringing, there is no tax collection,
Mm-hmm.
because any project you build, you thinking that it is not, it is have to be collected by the people only. So that period, and then there is a little balance of that. But usually 30 years, right?
Okay, sir.
Many maybe more. Dams and all we go for further.
Further, long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Very good. So we'll meet 5 minutes. After 5-10 minutes, we'll have to start one more.